Here we are. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's. Oops.
Sorry about that. Ooh,
Hold on one second.
okay.
Okay. Today's Brave Day event, which is Art with Ev. We're on our second day of a three-part series. So we were with Ev last week, and if you weren't able to join us, you can always go back and check the Crowdcast archives and find the first week. And we talked about colors last week and blending colors and a bunch of other little things. And today we're going to talk about shapes. But first, we were just kind of catching up on how our week's been, and both of us are feeling a little edgy, and we were kind of posturing or pondering why we're feeling edgy, and Ev had an interesting thought as to why. Ev, where's your thought?
We're kind of in an in-between space right now. I like to say this is when the country is walking around with two different shoes on each foot.
Yes, that's so
Yeah.
a lot of unbalance. Yeah,
We got
so
like
we
one bedroom slipper and one stiletto heel over.
right. Yeah, so the CDC has kind of thrown us all off. And so some of us are like, whoo, good thing we don't have to wear those masks anymore. And some of us are like, are you sure we don't have to wear the masks anymore? I'm just going to hang on a second until you guys really completely confirm this, right? That's the camp
Yeah.
I'm in. The masks are still on. I don't, I just want to be as mindful of the people around me as possible. And I don't want anybody to feel like I'm being cavalier with this. But I have been feeling really edgy, and I didn't think at all it had anything to do with that. So maybe in fact it does. Just this kind of inserts some where we'd kind of arrived at certainty, and this kind of re-injects some uncertainty.
Yeah, I think creative people tend to be highly sensitive in a lot of ways.
Yes,
And
that's true.
so it'll feel like even out here, I'm out in the middle of Airville, which there's Amish people across the road.
Yes.
It's about as remote as I can be for being close to civilization. And still, I think that sometimes the emotions are like the weather. You can feel that something's different.
Yeah.
So,
Well, maybe that's an explanation for how I don't, you and I at least are doing, because I feel like I'm in exactly that place. Like something, I can't put my finger on it, but you may
yeah.
have
And
just
I,
helped me.
I think that that's why we're doing this, especially
Yeah.
for May's Mental Health Month and Brave Days, so that we can talk about if you have emotions and you don't know where they're coming from. Oftentimes, we really have a bad habit of attaching it to what are some things that make me upset this way, and so then you
Yes.
you pull out all of your old stuff
Oh,
and
yeah.
just makes it new again, and no thank you. Instead,
Right.
what if we redirected the energy? Because really, um, I've read that the brain, the chemicals that it releases for being afraid versus being excited are like the same chemicals. So
Oh,
really, you can just
yeah.
have confusion about what you're feeling. And if
Right.
you're able to redirect that into something that's good and creative and gives you something pretty to look at afterwards, then you can feel
Yeah.
good about it.
Okay, I'm ready. So today we're going to talk about lines. No,
Shapes.
shapes. Sorry.
You're good.
Don't give too much away. So, what
Yeah,
are we going to start with? What do you have in mind? Because I came with my color pencils again,
great.
and I
Excellent.
actually just have regular pencil. I like pencils over pens. I guess it gives me the opportunity to make a
Erase.
correction
Yeah.
if something happens that feels better to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have my pencil. I'm ready. What should we do? What do you have there?
So I like to talk about shapes as a way of breaking away from written words and letters and numbers.
Okay.
So, so letters and numbers are really super useful for us to exchange information as people, and human beings had to invent these things, right?
Right, right.
But shapes are everywhere. They just
Yeah.
exist in nature. So like I was walking around my house today being like, ooh, there's an octagon on this pepper shaker and a circle here on my lip gloss. And oh, I got this ink that's a dewdrop,
Yeah.
teardrop. So I have a lot of shapes available to me without even being able to make them on my own.
Right.
But I do like being able to have variety of shapes in correspondence to numbers for then what I do with my music coloring work.
Okay.
So that I can trigger those same concepts without seeing the written symbols.
Okay.
So let's start with one single line. What's a shape we can make with one single line?
One single line, we could make a circle.
Circle is definitely the big one, right?
Yeah.
Having a circle. We can have some nice circles and we can freehand. Sometimes it makes people nervous to freehand a circle because, oh, is it going to get all the way back around to where I started it? So yeah, I can just pull up this if I want to and go all the way around it.
I've got
and
a
you can do
seltzer
this.
can here with me. So
Yeah.
I'll make a bigger one.
You can make a can, you can make a cup, you can pull out any circles. And really, I felt like circles were the most prevalent shape in my home. Yeah. And I have these washi tapes too. So I'm going to use some of them. They're fun too because then you can do a shape on the inside and a shape on the outside and get a nice donut.
Right. I like
And
donuts.
I'm just going to go ahead and overlap everything.
Oh, you are? Okay. That's so creative of you.
Yeah. I was going to say, we also don't have to be stuck in circles for one line. Obviously, we can just make some squiggles if we want to. Mm-hmm. And that would be still one single line. Yeah. So we don't have to feel restrained. But then that's what true. Also, Erin, could we do if we added one line and had two lines?
Two lines. We could make like a semicircle with a straight line and then a half one on top.
That sounds great. That would be two lines. We could make, I forgot that teardrop goes in that first category, I guess, of one line.
Oh, teardrop, of course, yes.
That was one line. That was a good one.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. Exclamation point, that's circle and a teardrop. And then, okay, for the second one, for two lines, my favorite one is actually a heart. Because I'm really big on symmetry.
Yes.
And I love this idea of being able to just make two things that are kind of a pair, right? That's why it's the symbol for love, coupling. Okay, so that's good. We got two lines. How about three? We're going to do...
definitely triangles.
Triangles. Most definitely some triangles. Triangles are like a whole subject in and of themselves, I feel like. Any geometry buff will tell you that you got your ones where they're all equal sides. You got the ones where they're on 90 degrees.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's
perpendicular.
The extent of my geometry right there. That's all I got.
And if you put two of them on top of each other, you can have a nice star. That's the first star I learned to draw before I could do a 5-point star. So those are triangles. And then we got our squares for number 4.
Yes.
So squares are just 4 sides together. Or, if you want to make them a little different, you can do them off from each other and have a parallelogram, I think is what that's called.
Yeah. Also, what is it when help people, the kind where the short side, the sides go out, and there's a long side on top? Trapezoid? No. Is that what that is?
Are you talking about where one side's shorter and one side's longer?
Yeah.
Like this?
Yes.
Oh, I forget the word for this.
Yes. Wow. It's still
rhombus? Something like that. There's so many geometry words, right?
It's been a long time since I've done geometry.
Well, we don't even need to know their proper names to just
No.
think they're cool.
Yeah, they could just
That's
be
fun.
great shapes.
And then I think I'm gonna try to do maybe a couple more, like five lines. We can make the traditional star. 1, 2, 3,
Mm-hmm.
4, 5. And then some people have a hard time making the 5-point star, so I'll tell them to just try it with 5 little carrots, 5 little whatever you call them. They're not quite triangles.
I see. Yeah, I see how you're doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like triangles without the third side, but you can attach them that way, and that's another
Mm-hmm.
way
I
to
like
get
that.
some nice stars.
Mm-hmm.
And that signifies 5 for me. And you can make them skinny or you can make them wide and get different kinds of stars. And then lastly, I think I'm going to do a 6-sided shape, just because after that it starts to get
Hard.
harder.
Yeah.
Here, I'm going to use, I have dot paper for anybody who thinks that I've got this figured out.
Mm.
And I just follow it here, connecting the dots to get 6 sides all together there.
Ooh, that one's hard.
Yeah, that
Oh, but I
one's
guess you could do
trickier.
3, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3,
And
4.
hey,
Yeah.
we can start to put things together, right? So if that seemed difficult, what this actually is, right? Aaron is going to be a square and then put a triangle
Oh,
here
yes.
and a triangle here.
Okay, I'm doing
And
that, doing it that way, so it actually works. Yeah, I see.
yep. Ooh, door just slammed. I have all the windows open. It is
Oh, yeah.
nice out enough for it. Oh my, wasn't expecting that. So there we have just like a bunch of shapes.
Yours are small. Mine are a little bit bigger.
Oh, I like yours better actually, because that's what I would like to have then we can color
Yeah. And then you
and
have some
just
overlap there. You can pick different colors.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then you can decide what your negative and positive space is, meaning
Ooh.
what's on top and what's underneath. So what's going to show up and what doesn't. So,
So,
you
like,
know,
I could decide that the circles are underneath and anything on top is.
yeah, you could do it that way. Like I'm going to put this one here. I'm going to decide that this is going to be this color. And then I'm going to decide that my circle here is going to be green.
I'm having marker envy. Those look so easy to color with.
Oh, these are super fun. And I don't like plug brands or anything, but
Yeah.
they're having a sale on them on tombow.com. So
Are they like watercolor pens?
they are actually just dual tip brush markers.
Oh, they're so.
So
Yeah, that
they
looks so
have an
easy.
end with a little fine point.
Okay.
And then they have one that looks like a paintbrush, which
Wow.
for me, when I don't want to go through the bother of dipping brushes back and forth, then I can just pull these out.
That's me always. So
And
what
they're
is the
fun.
name?
The brand name is called Tombow.
Okay.
And I kind of rubbed off most of the markings here. This one still has its markings on it. So Tombow is TOMBOW.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm sorry that's not very visible.
No, that's
But
okay.
yeah, I only say it because they have a sale until the end of today, 25% all of these particular markers.
Okay.
And their shipping is free. So that's how I ended up with these. And
Yeah.
also they are water-based. So this is not the best paper for illustrating the point. But if I could find my paint water, where'd I put my paint water? Let's use some of this water maybe. Oops. Yeah. So if I get them wet, actually, they
Ooh.
do move. But yeah, that might not be the best.
What's the paper that you would use for that?
Here we go. There we go.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, they will move.
Okay, that's
And
cool.
you can use that for then mixing the colors together
Right.
more. So, yep, there we go. Got some movement in the colors.
Oh yeah, I like that.
hmm So they will kind of mess together, which is fun always. And yeah, I really enjoy getting to play with the textures. I will notice that some people have a very heavy hand,
Yeah.
and I will say to those people that if you're pressing so hard with a marker or a pen that it's digging through the paper down into the next one or bleeding, that
Right.
maybe what you want is that texture of really pressing on paper, that you have more tension in your hands.
Yeah.
And in that case, I do recommend to go ahead with colored pencils or crayons or maybe pastels. They might break on you, but
Yeah.
just it'll give you more textural feedback that
Do you
way
know what
that
I
you might
love that you
enjoy.
just did there? Because I
Mm.
thought you were going to say, I love it when I have an idea of what somebody's going to say and then they surprise me, and you just did. Because I thought you were going to say, you'll have to like hold these more lightly and gently and really.
Oh,
And instead, you just went with making the accommodation. Like if you need that,
yeah.
like hanging on tight and pushing hard, if that's what you're craving, then here's a tool that will help you do that. So I love that you're just like, here's, if that's where you are, you met this
hmm
person, whoever that is out there,
Yeah,
where they are, and you've recommended a tool that will work for that state of mind. And so, like I was
absolutely.
just like, change yourself, fix it. But you're saying, like, if that's what you
Adapt.
need, yeah,
Yes.
if that's
Adapt
what you
to
need,
where
there are
you
tools for
are.
that too.
Yes,
I love
very much
that.
so.
Yeah, it's
And
so accepting.
it's one of those things that I am a texture sensitive person.
Yeah,
Not everybody is, but I have to have like a certain kind of pen. When people hand me like a Bic pen, there's like this cringy feeling for
yeah,
me for the
yeah,
texture feeling of it, or like that I need my pencil to be sharp.
yes,
Those sorts of things. And it's
yes.
okay to recognize these things about ourselves, whatever
Mm-hmm.
our triggers are, because
Mm-hmm.
it might be something as simple as art supplies, but it could also be something in our daily life that grinds us the wrong way.
Yeah,
And we can find adaptations that'll make our lives easier. If we
yeah,
have a hard time getting out of bed in the morning, then maybe we set an alarm that lets us sleep in for another 15 minutes.
yes, exactly. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Instead of, like all these pointers out there, do these 5 things and you'll be a better person. Well, I don't know. That's very generic in general.
Yeah, most definitely. So I'm always figuring out how to make what works for me work for the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And um, case in point, I used to be in a line of work that required a lot of paperwork and
Mm-hmm.
asked me to do things that I wasn't always sure were the right decisions. So then once I started making something for myself, that I didn't create it for the idea of selling it or marketing it or any other reason, I had people reach out to me and ask me to start making it my work.
Oh, that's
So,
interesting. Because you know what? They recognized the good in it because it comes from just, well, I don't know. What do you think is the reason? Maybe I'm messing up, but I mean, I was gonna say, if you there's a quote, and I wish I knew it off the top of my head, but it's
mhm.
it's like something like, go, the world needs you to go do what you love, basically. Like, do you
Yes.
know that quote?
Um, I I know what you're saying, and it's tricky. I was just really starting my journey when I performed with This Is My Brave,
Yeah.
with working with some community based nonprofits that were based around families and children and music and arts. And it's it's interesting to see because as part of that, my performing goes along with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a way of engaging with the audience and encouraging them to recognize that they have these skills and talents as well. But what
Yeah.
I run into over and over again is people saying like, "Oh, well, like I'm not a professional," or like I don't really know what I'm doing. And the truth is like a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
just have to keep doing it and trusting it, and you let it turn into whatever it's going to turn into. And if that means that it becomes a job or a hobby or a pastime, you just have to run with it and make it work for you. I think a lot of what keeps us from exploring is that fear that it's hard or that we're not special enough.
Or
But
that we haven't figured out what it is yet. Like we haven't defined it yet. Like sometimes, you know,
yeah,
we I have had that in my life where I think, oh, here's a new thing. Well, in order to pursue it, I need to identify all aspects of it, what it's going to mean to me. Whereas I could just start it and try it and see what happens. And then something within that process might emerge that I never ever even imagined.
yep, yep, very much so. I have watched it happen and watched everything else kind of shape in my life around it.
Yeah.
And I was given some very good advice one time when I was still juggling many more things at a time, which was just very simply to let go of anything and everything, even the
Mm-hmm.
stuff that I wanted to hold on to, because it's going to come back if it's supposed to be in my life.
Right.
And I found that that's very, very true,
And that's
especially
true.
uh, relationships are a big part of a lot of mental health disorders, definitely part of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Attachment and clinginess and being able to be independent and self-aware, self soothing and
Mm-hmm.
sufficient.
Yeah.
So
On your
in
own.
these, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So in these ways, it's like, oh, it's okay. Sometimes you don't know what's going on in other people's heads to
Mm-hmm.
be able to give them space as well. You can lose sight of whether it's what we started the conversation with about the emotions. You don't know whether sometimes you're really upset anymore or if you're upset that they're upset,
Yes.
or you can get lost in it. So
Yeah.
being able to focus your mind in a way, being able to physically do something creative this way is very grounding.
Mm-hmm.
It's very grounding, which is kind of a contradiction because being creative is oftentimes about being up in the clouds and your head just free to imagine things that are beyond your eyes and beyond the physical part. But being able to bring this back into something that you can make or do or sing or play in a way that makes you interact with the physical world, and that grounds you back down that creativity in a way that spits out all of that emotion in a way that's positive, that it's literally positive because it's creating something out into the world
Yeah.
that's good and real, as opposed to sometimes that other concept of just getting a little lost. We don't want to get lost.
Well, I think that's often, I mean, if I'm doing something creative well, there is an element of it that is getting lost in that process, where,
Mm-hmm. Makes you forget the other stuff.
yeah, or kind of get so drawn into, um, yeah, that I kind of lose track of the regular bounds of like passing time or things like that. I just, if I'm really involved in something, the constraints of my normal world, which would be time and I don't know, energy, those things tend to slip away, and I kind of just get lost in the process.
Yes, I
I
agree
think
with
that's that
you.
flow, right?
Yes, I agree with you very poignantly about this concept of time not being the same
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
why it's so useful for self-soothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're in crisis mode,
Mm-hmm.
every second and every minute is just such a lingering and unbearably
Right,
long.
right.
So then once we get to that space where we're able to be loose and creative, then sometimes time can move in a way that, oh wow, where did it go? Like,
Yeah. But
yeah,
in
and
a great, you're grateful for that, right? Because it's,
absolutely.
you didn't have to agonize over the passage of each second then.
And that's why I like being able to look at this then and say, oh,
Oh
that's
yeah. Oh,
pretty.
yours is pretty. Okay,
And it's
again,
so simple.
mine's coming together.
Oh, I love that.
It was the negative and positive that was confusing me a little bit. So I'm trying to put the,
So there's no right or
I
wrong here.
know.
That's entirely the point of looking
I
at it
know. I'm
and
gonna,
just
but
being like, because you know what you did, Erin? You've
what?
already set yourself up for the next time your brain needs a break.
Yeah.
You'll say, you know what I wanted to do differently that time that I did
Yes.
positive and negative space.
Yeah.
And then you'll have already in place a plan for using that energy in a positive direction.
Yeah, you know what? That's something else too. Like we started off Mental Health Month um, on Brave with the Brave Days. We kicked it off with a baking thing. We all got together on Zoom and baked cookies together, which
Nice.
was it wouldn't be my first choice for what to do with my time. I'm not usually a baker, right? But everybody else was getting on board, so I went and got my ingredients and baked. In the end, I did not create beautiful cookies. They were not great. But I will say, as I was doing it, I was thinking, oh, you know what? If I had this or if I'd done it this way. So now you're right. The next time I go to do those cookies, which I
Yep.
might do it sooner than I'd originally planned, because I now have in my mind, if I were to do that again, I would do it this way. And so I did pass by the little cookie tin just earlier today and thought, I should really give that a try again, because I was this close to getting them right, so I can go back and
Yes.
try again.
I
So
know
you're right.
exactly what you're talking
I've
about. I
planted a
made
little seed, and it's growing something there that I can go back and revisit, which is really nice.
baking is absolutely that way for me. I made challah for the first time last
Mm,
Friday, and
really?
it was like as soon as I did it, I wanted to do it again. And I'm like, oh man, I gotta eat these loaves of bread
Right.
before
Yeah.
I make
Or give them out to the
more
neighbors
bread.
first.
Yeah, I did give some away. But
Yeah.
I wanted to address Katie because she
Oh,
did
yeah.
talk here in our chat. And if you're listening, Katie, I was wondering what you were thinking about for a tattoo. And because I have some as well.
Mm.
And I'm also largely a word person. I love writing lyrics. So I'd be very curious to hear what kind of writing you do. When we were talking about getting lost and time and everything, I wanted to share that I have this little bunny rabbit here.
Oh.
I have this
Oh.
bunny
I
rabbit here.
see. Yeah.
And I imagine that little bunny rabbit being there talking to me when I was in the hospital. And
Oh.
then I waited a few years and then came up with the idea to finish this. Can we? Oh, I don't think I
On
can
that side?
even get the camera to see it. Can you see?
No. What is it?
No. I have an owl on the other side. That's
Oh,
another,
wow.
it's a darker circle over
Yeah.
there, or a lighter circle. So a dark circle over here with the white rabbit, and
Yeah.
then a light circle with a black owl in it
I
over
like how
here.
you did the bunny with the dark circle and the light. That's really, there's some positive and negative. I wouldn't have done it that way, but I like it.
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
was an interesting way for me to symbolize my journey once I'd gone through a few years and had it come full circle. I realized it's my shortcut through that place where I would get stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's a really neat way to think of it. Yeah.
Still I rise. That's a great one, Katie.
A praying mantis. Ooh, they're always so interesting to look at. That's really good. And also a lot of really neat lines on a drawing of a praying mantis. They're so
Thank
elegant.
Yeah, thank you. And I want you to know that there's symbolism in a praying mantis. If you Google praying mantis spirit
Mm,
animal, that you'll find that there are a lot about patience and being present to silence and listening for that inner guidance that we have within
mm,
us. Because if you're crazy as anything like me, then it's so many voices wherever they're coming from, whether they're people I interact with or what my parents told me forever ago
right,
or
right.
what I heard on a TV show. But when you really do whatever practice speaks to you, a lot of people do meditation. Um, I practice Reiki, I do various things, and when I can get it all quiet for a moment, I'll be able to get in touch with that voice, and
Mm,
maybe that's your praying mantis talking to
I like that.
you.
That's such a neat way to think about it.
Yeah, exactly right. Katie said it's about sitting still and moving when you're actually ready or need to.
Right.
Very much so. I can share with you my rabbit is it's a lucky animal, but it's about fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started my mental health journey, that's what I felt constantly was
Oh, yeah.
that, oh no, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I don't know, like I should brace for fighting or if I should run away. And then I mentioned this 3 full years passed by before I met a tattoo artist she was just wonderful. And so I talked it out with her and went and meditated. And I had a praying mantis moment where the
Mm,
owl was here when I woke up and was like, all right, I got this. Let's do it. And I
yeah.
looked up the owls, and that's what they are about, the way that they hunt. And they're
Uh-huh.
very still and very patient. And then they know because they're going to warn the rabbit if they make too much noise. So they
Yeah.
strike and get it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. I love that.
Yeah.
You've done
So,
a
oh,
lot of good work. I
thank
can
you.
see that, I mean, that's what I think is so interesting about this process. I know everybody who faces a mental health challenge at some point, probably, I'm guessing, feels, I mean, I felt, oh, poor me, like, why me? Why does this happen to me? Or,
Yes.
how come I have to face this challenge and nobody else does? But I really find that the people who have faced these challenges have done hard work and have learned really important things that make them, to me anyway, a much wiser and much more interesting person. So I would rather talk to somebody who's worked hard through a struggle and learned so many insightful things and is willing to share them, like you just have, Ev, than sit with somebody who's just had it made and done a lot of cool vacations and stuff. So,
No, I agree with you completely. And I don't know what your timeline looks like, Erin, but for me, I checked myself in 2013 after probably a good 5 years of just trying to see a therapist once in a week on and off for a few
mm-hmm,
years. And
mm-hmm,
before that, just white knuckling it, not knowing what was going on with
right,
myself.
right,
And before I spilled it all out. So then I
mm-hmm,
spilled it all out and I blogged about it and I went to groups and I made friends in different other meditation and practices so that I could do all of the self care. I was
mm-hmm,
very fortunate that I already knew people in such communities and I already had a music community around me. So
right,
those were
mm-hmm,
things that had shown up just a few years before I felt safe enough, really.
mm-hmm,
And I think having that environment of
yes,
good community around me was why it became safe to speak up and be open. But I
right,
completely agree with you that we are lucky we got here now because a lot more people are realizing the need for it at this
mm-hmm,
moment.
yeah,
And while it's good because when I came out, as it were, on This Is My Brave,
mm-hmm,
I felt as though we were just a small sprout of this
it's true,
forest that's coming out
yes,
now of people who are ready to embrace and acknowledge where humankind is kind of evolving in our
yes,
minds, how we're able to do more and acknowledge our needs on a greater scale in
yeah.
that way. So
Well,
I think that we're
it is,
prepared.
yeah, it's a big shift right now, I think, and so it, it, you're, uh, kind of starting, I think, kind of setting a great example. And so
Because I
that's,
wanted to say that to you, Erin, that like
oh,
as
thanks.
somebody who's here hosting this,
Mm-hmm.
that shows me that it happened sooner to you too, because you're one of those helpers who's prepared and ready and went through the process to help other people. You're being here and providing me with this platform. Thank you
Oh,
for
you're
going
welcome.
through
You're
that.
welcome. I anybody if I can be a part of encouraging anybody to speak more openly about the hard things they've been through, and to feel less shame about that, and more empowerment in their ability to speak openly, then I feel like I've done good work. So thank you for doing that with us. Thanks for guiding us. And I'm going to keep coloring. I mean, I've got some still left to
Yay.
do, some positive, negative. I'm going to actually finish it before next week, and share. Can you give us a preview as to what you have in mind next week? Or we leave it as a surprise and encourage everybody just to join
So
us?
I do want to encourage everybody to come, and I will show some more visual art, and
Yes.
maybe we can make some things together. It
Mm-hmm.
will also be a preview of some things to come, because
Yes.
I do want to share more of my process, and maybe I will have a surprise to share some music that you can see and hear.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
what I would love to see, a little glimpse into this project that you've been developing where you're combining music and colors, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that. So please do, I mean, I can't tell you what to do, but I would love to see a preview of that. And then we can talk about what else you've got going on, and we'll make sure to have your website up again next week. I'm not typing today, but I will have it
No
ready
problem.
to put it in the chat first thing, as we rejoin next week. So
I
thank
keep
you
it
so
simple.
much. Yeah, I remember. It's just every
Everyheardmusic.com.
heard, right? Everyheard.com. Yeah. So you heard it here, everyheard.com.
Okay.
Um, and we will see you next week. Thank you again for your time and for just all the wisdom you shared today. We appreciate it. And we're looking forward to one more session with you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye
Thanks for
bye.
coming.
Thanks. Bye, Katie.